Well, good evening. This is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on the 27th of January, and that is a Saturday evening. Well, what a long week it has been in politics. And our first story is Patrick Brown. This is the Premier of Ontario, and he was asked to step down after two women came forward and alleged that there had been some sexual improprieties about 10 years ago, and so he's subsequently been asked to step down as the leader of the Conservative Party, and whether he'll be able to run again in his home riding of Barrie in the upcoming election is in question. So the Tories are going to have a leadership race with a June election coming up, and as you can see, Ontario Tories in turmoil amid sexual misconduct allegations. This has certainly come out of the blue, and of course he's not alone. Okay, so here's another one, Jamie Bailey. He is the leader of the Progressive Conservative Party in Nova Scotia, and again, sexual improprieties. An investigator was hired, and anyway, so he's had to step down too. And I would imagine at this moment there are several politicians that are quaking in their boots and just hoping against hope that their past doesn't come back to haunt them. Okay, what can I say? You know, these people who are in Parliament, by and large, not all, but by and large, come from the privileged classes. And if you have ever tried to run for a seat in government, you will know that you have to have some serious cashola behind you. It is a huge effort. I mean, only a few people have the kind of free time that it takes to actually run for a seat in the House. And so anyways, we have this privileged class, and they're used to getting things their own way, and I don't think that I am actually telling any secrets about that. And so they come from the land of entitlement, and of course the vast majority of us don't come from that land of entitlement, but with entitlement comes abuse. And I bet you there are all kinds of little skeletons that are rattling around in the closets right now, waiting to come out into front and centerfold front page of the media. And the media is just lapping this up. You know, the media is in big trouble. Their revenues are completely out of the window, and so anything that they can get for clickbait, and this is staggering. I mean, the reporting on this has been relentless, non-stop, and what I say, over the top. It's been gratuitous. That's what I would say it's been. So there we go. Next story, as we might as well stay on the same topic here. BBC men take pay cuts. Now, I don't know whether you had heard about this, but there was a big foo-for-ah because they had an investigation at the BBC. This is the British Broadcasting Centre in England, and they had found that men who were doing essentially the same work were paid an awful lot more than their female counterparts were. And so they voluntarily agreed to address gender inequality. And I think this is kind of humorous because I have a funny feeling that there was an expectancy that women's wages would go up to meet the men's. And of course what happened is that the men's salaries have come down to meet the women's. So the corporation is making out like a bandit. The women have got what they said they wanted. They wanted pay equity with the men. And so there you go. It's interesting how these big corporations resolve their problems. We had a similar situation. I remember a friend of mine is an acupuncturist, and the physiotherapists and acupuncturists were asking to have parity with chiropractors who were part of the Ontario Health Insurance Plan, and they got paid per patient by OHIP, it's called, Ontario Health Insurance Plan. And so the acupuncturists and physiotherapists wanted pay parity, and what the government did on review said, well, why are we even paying chiropractors? We just won't pay anybody. So be careful what you wish for, I guess, is the moral of that story. And I guess we will we'll keep it on sexism. I think this is kind of a funny little joke here. Okay, so this is a joke about Kent Hare, and the Prime Minister in the background is saying, if we can rehab hardened jihadists, we can help you, Mr. Hare. And of course, Justin Trudeau has been criticised for saying that we're bringing in jihadists back to Canada and we're going to rehabilitate them. And of course the woman there is a diversity officer, and Mr. Hare says, well, you look delicious. How's that, toots? And he has been accused of making sexually inappropriate comments to women in his staff. So I thought that was actually kind of amusing. But I'll tell you what bugs me. Okay, so this is from the Sun newspaper, as you can see there. And on the back page of the Sun, here is the Sunshine Girl, and you can, well, it's a fairly revealing outfit that she has on, and you know, I mean, isn't this sexually stereotyping of women? I just find this odd irony everywhere. You know, when I go into the supermarket, I don't know if you've ever noticed at the checkout there, if you look at all of those magazines, they are as misogynistic, as sexually stereotyping as you can think. They are fat shaming because they're always having diet plans on there. There are always articles on how women can have better sex with their men, or how they can turn their man on, as if sex is the only thing that makes a relationship tick. And so here we are, we've got all these magazines, and moms go in there with their children, their sons and daughters, and whilst they're waiting in line, they have a good long time to look at these colourful pictures on the front of these magazines. And nobody says anything about that. I don't see any complaints, I don't see any effort to put these magazines on a rack that is above children's eye view, and because they are designed for adults. But as I say, I mean, they're just filled with misogyny, sexism, and sexual stereotyping of women. You know, singling out a particular gender. Okay? Now, personally, I don't give two hoots. And, you know, most of my opposition to this gender diversity, you know, cultural Marxism, third wave feminism stuff is, you know, I couldn't care less. You know, you do what you want to do, and that's that and all about it. And so these magazines there, if you want to take umbrage at them, you can, but it's the hypocrisy that I'm bugged by, is that you can pick up little details, you know, and inappropriate comments and so on and so forth, and yet nothing is ever said about these magazines, which really they're sort of passive future trend formers, because those images are highly suggestive. So there you go, that's my little take on some of the sexual revolution that's taking place out there, and there is an awful level of hypocrisy going on, and I sure wish we could just drop it, you know, and start seeing each other as people, and as rather than, you know, make that the group that we all belong to. We are all people, regardless of our gender, our colour, you know, whatever religion we are, it just doesn't matter. We're all people. There you go. Solution to the problem. We just have one race, and that is the people race. And we will have a set of rights for those people, and there will be one set of rights, and those rights will be enshrined for, oh, wait a minute, we have those rights in the Constitution. There you go. So these things were written down a long time ago, and if we could just follow some of the wisdom of the Constitution, I think, again, it may not be a perfect world. Maybe we can never achieve a perfect world. But you know one thing? It would go an awful long way to taking the prejudice, the animosity, and the polarization out of our society today. We operate under a rule of law, a justice system that functions, that is fair for all, and that upholds the Constitution by the people, for the people, and of the people. And that is what the group I belong to, called Direct Democracy, is all about. Okay? Well, that is the end of my news roundup for the week, and I hope you enjoyed that. So please, if you did, like and subscribe below, and we'll be talking real soon. You have yourself a great weekend. Bye for now. See ya.